She never suspected that the father she adored would one day stand beside her, at the altar, as her groom. The grand hall of the River's Edge Banquet Hall in Chicago shimmered with crystal chandeliers and soft golden light. Guests turned their heads when the bride's veil lifted, revealing Sarah Thompson, radiant in ivory lace. Gasps rippled across the room as Sarah turned toward the man waiting for her at the altar, her own brother in every sense she believed, Michael Thompson. No one could have anticipated such a moment. The whisper swept through the crowd like wildfire. Is that really Michael Thompson? I'm your narrator for this journey, the impartial witness to a story that defies expectations and challenges our understanding of family. Welcome to Karma Strikes, where betrayal meets justice in the most unexpected ways. In the video you're about to watch, we will witness a secret so dark that it shatters every bond, a web of love, deception, and fate that entangles a family in Chicago's affluent North Side. When a daughter's wedding becomes a moment of unimaginable betrayal, the seeds of karma have already been sown, and there is no turning back. Today, you will see how Linda Thompson, a respected real estate attorney with a thriving practice on Michigan Avenue, raised an orphaned child as her own, only to discover that the lines of love and blood are not always clear. You will feel the weight of every whispered doubt, every furtive glance, and every late-night conversation that went unnoticed until it was too late. As the wedding march echoed through the marble columns, the truth hovered in the air like a specter, ready to strike when the moment was right. In mere seconds, Sarah's world would crumble when the truth came to light, and a cascade of events would be set into motion. Private investigators, courtroom dramas in Cook County, and revelations so profound they would reshape the very definition of family. The questions this story raises are impossible to ignore. How far can love stretch before it snaps? What happens when a mother's devotion blinds her to the danger lurking in plain sight? And when justice finally arrives, will it heal or destroy the ties that once bound them together? Hold on tight, because this is not just a tale of betrayal. It's a lesson in karma, whispered in the corridors of power and resonating in the hearts of those who believed they knew the truth. As you watch, ask yourself, if you were in this situation, what would you do? Comment below and share your thoughts. Justice doesn't wait forever, and in this story, no secret stays buried for long. Underneath the pristine white roses and harp melodies, an undercurrent of tension pulsed quietly, an unspoken truth that lingered like a shadow behind every smile. Parents and friends exchanged polite congratulations, oblivious to the secret poised to explode. The very foundation of this elegant celebration was built on a lie so intricate that even the keenest observer would struggle to unravel it. Little did anyone know, the vows about to be spoken would bind not just two hearts, but test the limits of a mother's love and a family's trust. Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood was a place where tree-lined streets met the glimmering skyline of Lake Michigan. Linda Thompson, age 42, lived in a 3-story townhouse near Lincoln Park, her life defined by order, ambition, and a sense of purpose. As a partner at Thompson & Associates, a prestigious law firm specializing in family and real estate law, Linda spent her days poring over contracts and court documents, advocating for clients across Cook County. Her reputation was impeccable, her career blossoming in a city renowned for its competitive legal community. Michael had grown up in the warm glow of his mother's success, attending schools like Francis W. Parker and later the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He possessed a sharp mind and a gentle heart, inheriting his mother's tenacity and his father's creativity, though his father, Robert Thompson, had passed away in a tragic car accident when Michael was just 8. The loss had left a void in both their lives, but Linda devoted herself to raising Michael, balancing her career with weekend bike rides along Lake Michigan and late-night heart-to-heart talks in their cozy Lincoln Park living room. Into this carefully ordered world stepped Sarah Jenkins. She arrived at Linda's door one frigid December evening, a homeless 16-year-old fleeing an abusive foster home in Gary, Indiana. Her father had died when she was young, and her mother, lost to addiction, had vanished. Social services, overwhelmed and underfunded, had been on the brink of sending Sarah to yet another foster family, but Linda intervened, driven by a compassion she hadn't fully understood until that moment. Linda knew what it felt like to lose a parent at a young age, and she couldn't bear the thought of Sarah navigating the world alone. Sarah moved into their home on Montrose Avenue, a small multi-level townhouse near Wrigley Field. In a matter of weeks, she became part of the household routine. Mornings began with Sarah helping Michael scramble eggs before school, afternoons with tutoring sessions in the home's finished basement-turned-study, and evenings spent sharing stories of hopes and dreams over takeout pizza. Linda enrolled Sarah at Lakeview High School, ensuring she had the same opportunities as Michael. Over time, Sarah blossomed into a confident, diligent young woman, artistic, with a passion for photography and a smile that lit up any room. To the outside world, they were a model family. Linda, the successful lawyer and single mother. Michael, the devoted son with a promising legal career. And Sarah, the talented foster daughter who was poised to attend Northwestern University on a photography scholarship. Invisible to most was the spark of admiration that flickered between Michael and Sarah during their late-night conversations in the study, talking about future careers and dreams. Michael often found himself watching Sarah as she edited her photos of Chicago's skyline, captivated by her creativity and resilience. By the time Sarah graduated high school, Linda had legally adopted her. Her name formally changed to Sarah Thompson in the Circuit Court of Cook County. The ceremony was small and private, held in the firm's conference room with a few friends, a judge, and their family lawyer, Kelly Thompson. No relation. Linda signed the final papers with trembling hands, reaffirming her promise to provide Sarah the life she deserved. The adoption meant Sarah was, on paper, Linda's daughter and Michael's sister. Yet it also entrenched a bond that, unbeknownst to them, would one day become their undoing. Winter faded into spring, and Sarah left for Northwestern University's Evanston campus, majoring in visual communication design, while Michael moved to Boston for his first year at Harvard Law School. Though miles apart, they talked almost every night. Michael regaled Sarah with stories of Cambridge life, while Sarah shared details of art shows in the Evanston Gallery District. Linda, balancing a new pro bono case representing a family fighting eviction in Bridgeport, could only check in on them during her drive along Lakeshore Drive, offering quick texts of encouragement. She believed they were both thriving, unaware of what was quietly growing beneath the surface. Late one autumn afternoon, Linda returned to her Lakeview office with the aroma of pumpkin latte still clinging to her coat. A stack of files awaited her attention. The McAllister property dispute, a standard eviction appeal, and routine schedules for court appearances. But in the corner of her desk, a file with no return address caught her eye. The envelope bore a single initial, S. Her heart tightened as memories of Sarah flooded her mind. She slit the seal, and her eyes skimmed a printed page, an email titled for Michael from an address she didn't immediately recognize. As she read, her vision blurred. Michael and Sarah had been exchanging confidential messages for months, but these emails were different. They were intimate, filled with affection and longing. Linda read lines like, "I miss you more than words can express," and "When I hold you, I feel at home," written by Michael to Sarah under the guise of, "Your devoted brother." Linda's pulse pounded. How could her son speak such words to his sister? She sank into her leather chair, betrayal and confusion warring within her. It wasn't until she reached the footer of the email chain that her breath caught. References to secret weekend visits at a lake house in Lake Zurich, where Michael and Sarah had been alone together. The tone of the messages was different from platonic sibling affection. They spoke of passion, stolen kisses behind closed doors. Linda's vision blurred as she recognized the signatures: Sarah T. and Michael T. Her daughter. Her son. The realization crashed into her like a freight train. Her breath caught, and she felt a cold sweat break across her skin. Memories flooded back. The late-night conversations she had overheard, the whispered laughter that might have sounded innocent at the time. Linda recalled the day she found Sarah standing by Michael's car outside Northwestern's Norris University Center, his arm around her waist as they whispered. She had brushed it off, convincing herself it was a brother-sister moment she had misinterpreted. Her efforts to be a good mother and good adoptive parent had blinded her to the underlying truth. She had wanted so badly to believe her family was safe that she missed the warning signs. Fear gripped her. What would the community say? The notion of a brother and sister, raised under the same roof for a decade, entering into a romantic relationship, was unconscionable, even if there was no biological relation. Chicago's tabloids would feast on it, social media would erupt, and her reputation, built on years of legal victories, would crumble. But first, Linda had to confirm her worst suspicions. She dialed the number to Cullinan Investigations, a firm she had once represented in an eviction case. "I need to confirm that Michael Thompson and Sarah Thompson are involved in an intimate relationship," she told the detective, her voice steady but low. "Do whatever it takes. I need proof." "Well?" The detective's voice came through with its usual clipped tone. "I've reviewed the emails, Ms. Thompson. There's no mistake. Michael and Sarah have been conducting an affair. They rented that lake house under a false name, T. Johnson. They crossed the line, Ms. Thompson." Linda's jaw clenched. "I need undeniable evidence," she said, her voice a whisper. "Stand by." The call ended, and Linda stared at her reflection in the office window. The city lights blurred as tears welled in her eyes. Meanwhile, at Northwestern University, Sarah sat in a sunlit studio in Mary Graydon's center, surrounded by photographs of Chicago's skyline printed in high-contrast black and white. She clutched her cell phone, scrolling through the same email chain she had sent to Linda's office. Panic seized her chest as she realized her mistake. Her hands trembled, and she replayed every secret moment she and Michael had shared. She remembered the night they first realized their feelings went beyond sibling affection. It was last summer, a month after Michael returned from Boston for a brief break. They met at the family lake house in Lake Zurich, ostensibly to sort through old photo albums. The air had been crisp, the water reflecting a sky painted with lilac and rose hues. As they flipped through pictures of childhood vacations, a spark ignited when Michael brushed a strand of hair from Sarah's face. They leaned in, hesitant at first, then surrendered to a kiss that carried years of suppressed longing. Sarah tasted Michael's sorrow and hope. He tasted her vulnerability and fierce loyalty. In that moment, their shared past as adoptive siblings blurred, and they glimpsed a future they couldn't ignore. Yet guilt gnawed at their conscience. They knew what they were doing defied social norms and moral codes, an electric current of excitement and shame lighting every nerve. When they parted, breathless, they promised each other silence, believing that love could conquer all. Back in her office, Linda realized that the final confirmation she sought would come from a DNA test. She remembered the policy at Cook County Health for confidential paternity and sibling DNA testing. her legal expertise guiding her. She arranged for a covert sample: hair from Michael's throwaway hairbrush and a swab from Sarah's packed toothbrush, paying with cash to avoid leaving a paper trail. As she drove home, city traffic mirrored the chaos in her mind. The setting sun cast long shadows between the buildings, and Linda felt as if her own shadow was stretching out, long and dark, across her life. That night, Michael called his mother from Boston. "Mom, can we talk? It's about Sarah." His tone was measured but tense. Linda felt her heart constrict. She closed her eyes and listened as he explained that he and Sarah had fallen in love. "She's not my sister, Mom," he pleaded. "Legally, we're not related. This is real. You raised her, yes, but our bond—" Linda cut him off. "You think any judge or jury will care about your legal technicalities? This is a scandal waiting to happen." She ended the call, her hand trembling. The next morning, she had the DNA results. Michael and Sarah shared no blood relation. The weight of relief mingled with agony. They weren't biological siblings, but the role she had cast them in had become something far more tangled. As dawn broke over Chicago, Linda stared at the Thompson family portrait on her mantel, a smiling trio captured years ago, standing in front of the Chicago theater marquee. Today, that photograph would be a testament to a love story gone wrong. And so began a spiral of confrontations, accusations, and moral reckonings that would expose the fragility of human bonds. If you were in this situation, what would you do? What would... Comment below and share your thoughts. The morning after reading the DNA results, Linda awoke to an empty house. Michael had returned to Boston, possibly to escape the storm she had unleashed. In their once familiar kitchen, the lingering aroma of brewed coffee was a ghost of happier times. Linda took a seat at the oak table by the bay window, her gaze drifting to Lake Michigan's vast expanse. She replayed Michael's phone call, searching for an inkling of deceit in his words. But he had spoken truth. No blood tie bound Michael and Sarah. Yet the way they had conducted themselves, like husband and wife, felt like a betrayal of the family sanctuary she had built. Linda resolved that the only path forward required clarity and control. First, she met with her confidant and firm partner, Kelly Thompson, in a private conference room at their office. Legends surrounded Kelly, a fierce litigator with a steely resolve, known for winning cases that seemed unwinnable. Over cups of intense espresso, Linda laid out the facts: Sarah's adoption, the hidden affair, and their wedding plans. Kelly's eyes narrowed as she absorbed each detail. Then she leaned forward. "We need legal footing," she said. "You want to annul their marriage before it happens, but Chicago doesn't have an incest statute for non-biological siblings. We'll need to argue that a public policy exception applies. Present their adoption as de facto siblinghood. It's risky." Meanwhile, Michael and Sarah were oblivious to the legal maneuvers unfolding in Chicago. At Harvard Law's Ames Court Grill, Michael stared blankly at a notebook filled with family law precedents, statutes on incestuous relationships, and case studies he never imagined he'd need. His roommate, Jason Alvarez, glanced at him with concern. "Mike, you've been off since you called home. What's going on?" Michael took a deep breath, rejoining the world he had temporarily abandoned. "I love her, Jason. But my mom is preparing a legal offensive to stop us." Jason leaned back, processing. "Have you consulted Illinois law?" Michael nodded. "No blood relation. We thought that was enough, but apparently they can challenge us on emotional grounds. It's a mess." Back in Chicago, Linda hired a private investigator, Angela Kim of Kim Investigations. Angela, a former detective with the Chicago PD, had a reputation for discretion and thoroughness. Linda paid in cash and provided Angela with a list of objectives: discreet surveillance of the lake house, tracking communication channels and uncovering any additional evidence that might tip the scales in her favor. Angela's team staked out the lake house on a crisp Friday evening, watching as Sarah arrived in her silver Honda Accord. In the fading light, they followed her as she walked into the lake house, pre-purchased under the name Jonathan T., accompanied by Michael stepping out of an Uber. Undercover, Angela captured footage of Michael and Sarah laughing as they unpacked crates of vintage vinyl records, a hobby Michael had introduced to Sarah. In another clip, they kissed under the porch light, their bodies entwined as if every worry in the world dissipated. Angela recorded every whispered vow. "I never want to live without you," Sarah murmured into Michael's ear. "Not even the world can keep us apart," he replied. For Angela, each frame was a testament to their bond. But for Linda, each photograph felt like a dagger in her heart. Linda also reached out to Dr. Evelyn Ramirez, a family psychologist at Northwestern who had once counseled Sarah pro bono during her adoption process. Dr. Ramirez agreed to review Sarah's case file, searching for past indications that might cast doubt on her mental state or decision-making capacity. Over coffee at a restored warehouse cafe in Evanston, Dr. Ramirez shook her head as she sifted through notes on Sarah's early trauma and resilience. "She's remarkably well-adjusted," Dr. Ramirez observed. "There's no indication of a condition that impairs her decision-making, but the emotional complexity of this situation could cause lasting harm. She may not fully understand the impact of adult romantic intimacy with someone she was raised to think of as a brother." Frustrated by dead ends, Linda came home to find Sarah's childhood photographs spread across the living room floor. Images of family vacations to Navy Pier, Michael and Sarah feeding ducks at Lincoln Park Zoo, moments that felt sacrosanct. On the coffee table lay Sarah's latest project, a portfolio of black and white photographs depicting Chicago's South Side neighborhoods. Linda traced a finger over a photograph of Sarah standing in front of a graffitied wall, her eyes distant and thoughtful. Guilt wafted through her. She had been so proud of Sarah's growth, yet now she saw those images as evidence of deception. An unexpected phone call from a local TV producer, Darnell Bryant of WGN News, jolted her. "We're hearing rumors about a big Thompson family scandal. You won't go on camera? But can you confirm or deny that your foster daughter married your son?" Darnell's voice crackled through the line. Linda hesitated. Photos of Chicago's skyline glittered behind Darnell's desk as he leaned with expectation. "I'm sorry," Linda whispered. "I have no comment." Darnell's sigh bristled through the phone. "We'll respect your wishes. For now." With time running out before Michael and Sarah's reception, Linda gathered evidence destined for her legal team. She scanned emails, printed text exchanges, and organized footage provided by Angela Kim. She labeled files meticulously: lake house surveillance, intimate emails, and final evidence, do not delete. Each document felt like a bitter reminder of betrayal. Late at night, she replayed moments from her life as a single mother. Michael's first steps, Sarah's first art show, the laughter that once bound them. She knew every file she filled could be used to protect her family's reputation, yet she also recognized the heavy cost of exposing the truth. One evening at a small Italian restaurant in Lincoln Park, Linda met with her family friend and pastor, Reverend Samuel Cartwright. The restaurant's dim Edison bulbs cast smoky reflections on red checkered tablecloths. Reverend Cartwright offered a fatherly presence, a calming voice amid her storm of emotions. "Linda, God places people in our lives for a reason," he said quietly. "Your love for Sarah was pure, but now you're caught in the crossfire of hearts. Remember that forgiveness can be more powerful than condemnation." Linda nodded, fighting tears. "I want justice, Reverend, but I also love them, both of them. I don't know if I can do this." That night, Linda returned home and found a stack of social media printouts on her desk. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, screenshots of anonymous posts speculating about the Thompson scandal. Some users mocked her. Parent of the Year award goes to an adoptive mom who let her son marry his foster sis LOL. Others expressed outrage. This is disgusting. They must annul immediately. The digital cacophony stabbed at her resolve. But among the vitriol, a single comment caught her eye. But what if it's not incest? What if they never saw each other as siblings at their core? The question lingered in her mind as midnight approached, and Linda realized that the line between justice and cruelty was razor thin. She had to decide. Would she condemn her son and daughter for defying social convention, even if no law was broken? Or would she find a way to protect them and herself from a world ready to judge them mercilessly? The answer eluded her, and so she prepared for the ultimate confrontation that would expose truths none of them could ignore. The morning of the hearing at the Richard J. Daley Center arrived with an unseasonably crisp wind blowing off Lake Michigan. Reporters from local outlets had staked out the front steps, their cameras poised behind barricades. WGN news vans idled on the street, satellite dishes pointed skyward, ready to beam the spectacle live. The grand facade of the courthouse stood like a fortress of justice, its limestone walls catching the early light. Inside, the marble floors gleamed, and a hush settled over the crowd as families, curious onlookers, and credentialed journalists found their seats. Linda's heart pounded as she ascended the stairs to Courtroom 401. The large oak doors opened to reveal rows of polished benches filled with onlookers. The press, neighbors from Lakeview, and curious passers-by drawn by the scandalous headlines. Among them sat Reverend Cartwright, his presence a steady anchor for her faltering spirit. Next to him, Michael's college roommate, Jason Alvarez, raised an inquisitive eyebrow, unsure of the gravity awaiting them all. On the opposite side, a small contingent of Northwestern students in purple and white scarves whispered among themselves, obviously there in solidarity with Sarah. At the front of the room, Judge Marcia Donahue, a stern woman known for her impartial rulings, surveyed the crowd before taking her seat. She rapped her gavel as the attorneys approached. Kelly Thompson, with her crisp legal pad and poised demeanor, presented herself as lead counsel for Linda. On the opposite podium stood Sarah's pro bono attorney, Jason Langley, a young but fierce litigator affiliated with Legal Aid Chicago. His presence signaled that Sarah would contest Linda's attempt to annul the wedding. Kelly began by stating the case. Your Honor, this petition seeks a declaration that the marriage between Michael Thompson and Sarah Thompson is void ab initio, given the pre-existing adoption by Ms. Linda Thompson. Though not biologically related, their relationship is morally and socially unacceptable. They were raised as siblings under Ms. Thompson's care. She paused to let her words resonate. We contend that this union violates the public policy of the state of Illinois, which discourages marriages between those who were raised in the same family unit, regardless of blood ties, due to the emotional and psychological harm it can inflict. As Kelly spoke, the camera crews recorded every nuance. Judge Donahue's expression remained stoic, but the pressing weight of the argument was palpable. When Kelly finished, Jason Langley rose, adjusting his bow tie. Your Honor, my client, Sarah Jenkins Thompson, entered into this marriage free of coercion, with full knowledge and intention. Ms. Jenkins is not biologically related to her husband, and under Illinois law, 750 ILCS 5102, marriages between adoptive siblings are permitted if no blood relation exists, and there is no evidence of coercion. To invalidate their marriage would be an unconstitutional violation of their fundamental right to marry. His calm tone contrasted sharply with the tension in court. The first witness called by Linda's side was Angela Kim, the private investigator. She took the stand in her leather jacket and dark slacks, projecting authority from her earlier days in the CPD. I conducted surveillance on Michael and Sarah from August through October at the Lake Zurich residence, she testified. Here are photographs of them embracing intimately on multiple occasions. Kelly presented a series of still frames. Sarah in a white sundress, Michael tracing patterns on her collarbone as she set up portrait equipment on the living room balcony overlooking the frozen lake. The audience murmured as each image displayed intimacy that, to any observer, seemed more than platonic. Next, Judge Donahue allowed admission of the email chain that Linda discovered. The excerpt that caused the most reaction was Michael's message. "You are my soulmate, not my sister. When we spoke on the porch that sunset, I knew I found home." Sarah's cheeks flushed as the room absorbed every word. A reporter scribbled furiously in a notepad, capturing the testimony for tomorrow's morning edition. The witness chair was swapped for Dr. Evelyn Ramirez, brought in by Kelly to underscore the psychological trauma inherent in the situation. Dr. Ramirez, seated in a crisp blazer, spoke softly but firmly. "I first met Sarah in 2016 during her adoption process. She exhibited remarkable resilience despite early childhood trauma. In my professional opinion, she lacked any psychological condition that would impair her capacity to consent to this marriage. However, the experience of being raised as a daughter and then becoming a wife to her adoptive brother constitutes a form of emotional trauma that should not be underestimated." Sarah's eyes brimmed with tears, but she held her head high. In a dramatic twist, Jason Langley called Michael to the stand. Michael, in a tailored charcoal suit, approached with measured steps, his face lined with determination and sorrow. When asked to speak, he addressed the court in a clear, unwavering voice. "Your Honor? Yes. I was raised to love Sarah as my sister, but as we grew older, our bond evolved. We never intended to deceive Ms. Thompson. We believed that our love, rooted in years of mutual respect and care, transcended labels and societal conventions. We sought to honor one another's happiness. We consulted Illinois statutes, and no law prohibits our marriage since we share no genetic link." Judge Donahue raised an eyebrow as she probed. "Mr. Thompson, are you aware of any legal statute in Illinois that prohibits your marriage on the grounds of social taboo or moral distress?" Michael nodded. "I am aware that no blood relation exists between us. We were prepared to challenge any moral arguments, but believed our honesty and intention would suffice." Kelly interjected with an objection, arguing that legal technicalities should not override public decency. The judge sustained the objection briefly before reminding the parties to focus on admissible evidence. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, the tension escalated when Sarah took the stand. She stood poised, her posture regal despite the turmoil she faced. As Jason Langley questioned her, she explained, "I came to Chicago as an orphan seeking safety. Ms. Thompson gave me a home when no one else would. I will always love her for that. But the moment Michael and I realized our feelings, our world transformed. We did not expect understanding, we sought honesty. We never wanted to hurt you, Mom." Her voice broke, tears glistening on her cheeks. From the back of the room, a surprise witness emerged. Rachel Martinez, Sarah's former roommate at Northwestern. She clutched a USB drive containing a video recording of a confession Sarah had made in her freshman year dorm room. The footage showed Sarah arguing with herself in the mirror, tears streaming down her face as she said, "I know I'm in love with Michael, but I feel disgusting. This shouldn't be happening. What kind of life awaits someone like me?" The video paused on Sarah's trembling lips. The gallery gasped at the raw honesty. Yet, as the hour wore on, the most unexpected twist arrived. Michael's childhood friend, Andrew Whitman, a former special operations officer turned millionaire entrepreneur in San Francisco, took the stand remotely via Zoom. His image flickered on a court-provided screen. He revealed that after a falling out with Michael in college, he had sent a letter to Linda revealing something she had never known, a letter Michael had written when he was 16. In that letter, Michael confessed he never considered Sarah his sister, believing her more a lifelong companion than family. His words read, "I love her for her spirit, not because she's my sister. I can't help what my heart feels." Judge Donahue leaned forward, reviewing the letter. She tapped her gavel lightly. This letter confirms that Mr. Thompson's understanding of his relationship to Ms. Jenkins was not that of siblings, but rather that of childhood acquaintances bonded by circumstance. The court will take this into consideration. At that moment, Linda felt a sharp contraction in her chest, the shock of realizing her chosen roles had been misinterpreted by those she loved most. The gallery buzzed with awed whispers. So they never truly saw each other as siblings at their core? As dusk settled, the hearing paused to reconvene the next morning. Cameras followed Linda as she exited the courthouse, her expression impenetrable behind dark sunglasses. Onlookers shouted questions. "Miss Thompson, will you drop the case? And how could your family have hidden this?" Reverend Cartwright met her at the curb, offering a silent handshake, his eyes heavy with compassion. Outside, a lone figure approached Sarah, her best friend Maria Gonzalez, who had flown in from Evanston. Maria took Sarah's hand. "You did the right thing telling the truth. No matter what happens, I believe in you." Sarah let out a shuddering breath, clutching the lapel of her green bridesmaid dress, the same one she had planned to wear on her big day. It had become a symbol of stolen dreams now. That night, Linda sat alone in the quiet of her Lakeview living room, clutching the letter from Andrew Whitman. The flicker of the television cast dancing shadows on the walls as the 10 p.m. news anchor recapped the day's events. In Chicago's most sensational family scandal, the courtroom learned that Michael Thompson and Sarah Jenkins Thompson were not adoptive siblings in the minds of those involved, a revelation that could redefine acceptable boundaries in family law. Many legal experts say this could set a precedent for non-traditional families. Linda's reflection in the TV screen looked back at her with haunted eyes. The seeds of doubt, once sown, had blossomed into a whirlwind of unresolved questions. If her son had never truly seen Sarah as a sister, did her intent to protect them contradict the reality they believed? Could she pursue justice without inflicting further harm? In that moment, the calm before tomorrow's final confrontation settled over her like a looming storm cloud. The next morning, Courtroom 401 filled with hushed anticipation. The same oak doors creaked open to admit Judge Donahue, who had spent the night reviewing every testimony and piece of evidence. Linda sat at the plaintiff's table, hands clenched around her folded napkin, while Michael and Sarah remained side by side, their fingers intertwined beneath the wooden surface. The gallery buzzed one last time as the judge adjusted her glasses and spoke. After careful consideration, this court finds that under Illinois law, no legal grounds exist to annul this marriage. While the parties were raised as adoptive siblings, they share no biological relation and entered into this union knowingly and mutually. However, the court notes the psychological complexities of their relationship and encourages both parties to seek counseling to ensure their emotional well-being. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Cameras flashed as reporters scribbled notes for the front page. Linda felt a jolt in her chest and fought the urge to rise in protest. Instead, tears pooled in her eyes, a mixture of relief and grief washing over her. The judge continued, her voice firm yet compassionate. While this marriage is legally upheld, the court emphasizes the importance of emotional and psychological welfare. It is recommended that both parties seek family counseling to address any latent trauma stemming from their upbringing. As the gavel fell, the immediate sensation was confusion, then, slowly, a shift toward resolution. The following day, headlines splashed across Chicago's major publications. Thompson family court decision, love versus long-held belief, and adoptive siblings. Wed, what Illinois law says. Online, social media still crackled with debate. Many argued Linda had abused her maternal role. Others applauded the couple's right to love. But amid the uproar, a quieter narrative emerged. One of forgiveness, healing, and the resilience of human bonds. Back at their Lakeview home, Linda waited by the front door as Michael and Sarah pulled into the driveway. The overcast sky seemed fitting, a mixture of gray uncertainty and pale hope. Michael stepped out first, wrapping an arm around Sarah before lifting her like a small child and carrying her inside. Their laughter, tentative at first, echoed through the foyer, filling the space with warmth. Linda closed her eyes and exhaled, steeling herself for the conversation she knew must come. They gathered around the dining table, once the site of countless family dinners, now a space for reckoning. Linda cleared her throat, her voice wavering. "I read the ruling," she began. "I understand why the court did what it did. Legally, you were allowed to do this. But as your mother, I felt betrayed. I saw you two as brother and sister for so long that this turned my world upside down." Her eyes flicked between them as Sarah reached for Michael's hand. Sarah swallowed, voice soft yet resolute. "Mom, when you found me in Gary, I was desperate for family. You gave me everything I needed. Love, a home, a name. I always honored you as my mother. But when Michael and I realized our feelings, we didn't plan it. It just happened. We knew the risk, the taboo, but we couldn't ignore our bond." She paused, tears glistening. "We never wanted to hurt you." Michael added, "I love you, Mom. You raised me to be honest, to pursue justice. I believe this is right, even if it defies convention. I had to be true to myself." His gaze held Linda's for a long moment, and Linda recognized in his eyes the same mix of love and conviction she had felt as a child when he first learned to walk on his own. Silence fell, before Linda's shoulders sagged. She inhaled deeply, each breath steadying her resolve. "I was angry," she admitted, "not because of a law, but because I felt my trust had been broken. But I also realized that holding on to anger won't fix anything. Karma doesn't rush, but it never misses. I see now that my compassion in adopting Sarah created a bond that transcended labels. I need time to adjust, to reconcile my role as mother with the truth of your relationship." Michael stood and approached her, kneeling to catch her hands in his. "We want you in our lives, Mom," he said. "We need your blessing. But if that isn't possible right now, we understand. We still love you." His sincerity struck a chord deep within Linda's heart. She squeezed his hands, tears rolling freely down her cheeks. Over the next few weeks, the Thompson home became a place of cautious healing. Reverend Cartwright facilitated family therapy sessions at his modest Lincoln Park church. The wooden pews, normally reserved for Sunday sermons, now hosted intimate conversations about identity, forgiveness, and the unpredictable nature of love. Dr. Ramirez joined via video call to guide Sarah through understanding her emotions and reconciling her gratitude toward Linda with her commitment to Michael. Their sessions delved into Sarah's early trauma, exploring how abandonment shaped her need for love and acceptance. Michael, balancing his studies at Harvard Law, flew back to Chicago every weekend. He brought with him files for bar exam preparation and a growing sense of purpose. an intent to focus on family law reform to address non-traditional family structures. He shared articles he authored on Cook County's legal code and potential amendments that could protect families like theirs. The seeds you sow today will bloom tomorrow, whether you like it or not, he murmured one evening, quoting a phrase Linda had once shared with him as a child. On a crisp afternoon in early December, Sarah and Michael took Linda to their favorite spot, the Chicago Botanic Garden. Snow had dusted the evergreen trees, creating a serene winter wonderland. They walked along a winding path toward a secluded gazebo overlooking a frozen pond. Snowflakes drifted down like silent blessings. Michael stopped and turned to Linda. "Mom, we're asking you to officially welcome Sarah not just as your daughter, but as your daughter-in-law as well. We want to have a small family ceremony to mark a new beginning." Linda's breath caught. She looked at Sarah, who stood with hopeful anticipation. Then, she surveyed the icy expanse, recognizing that life's twists often brought us to unexpected but necessary truths. She smiled, a soft warmth replacing the cold between them. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'd like that." The resolution of this chapter did not erase their pain, but it sparked a new beginning. The small ceremony on Christmas Eve was a private affair at Reverend Cartwright's church, with close friends and family gathering beneath twinkling lights and crimson poinsettias. Linda walked Sarah down the aisle, a reversal of roles she never imagined, wrapping a white fur shawl around her shoulders. As Sarah joined Michael at the altar, Linda offered a blessing she had written herself. "May your love be guided by truth, tempered with understanding, and always anchored in the bond we share as a family. Let compassion lead you where doubt once stood." After the ceremony, as they stood beneath a night sky dusted with stars, Linda reflected on the journey they had traversed. Justice had been served not through courtroom dragnets, but through empathy, understanding, and the unyielding power of love. The Thompson family had been tested by secrets and societal norms, yet they had emerged with a deeper appreciation for the complexities of human relationships. And so, as the crowd toasted with hot cocoa and rang in the holiday season with laughter and music, Linda realized that sometimes the greatest truths are hidden in the bonds we least expect. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and remember, sometimes the greatest truths are found in the bonds we least expect.